Oobish Doobish. It's everyone's favorite boomer and vintage lens enthusiast. And what were you doing in December of 2014? I took a day trip to New York City, or the city as we call it around here. But those are the good old heydays of Rudy and Bloomy, when New York City was a safe place to walk around, and you didn't have to worry about being told, chucked, and knifed, or otherwise accosted on the street. So, but there's a bunch of sample pictures taken with this camera and this lens of that day trip. And the camera is the Canon DSLR XTi, which is also known as the, I think the D400, I believe. Now, what lens did I use? I used the Tokina SD 11-16 f2.8 IF-DX. IF means internal focusing. It's the ATX Pro. And it has a clutch mechanism that's manual focus, and that's autofocus. It came with a big pedal cover, but it adds so much bulk to the camera, I don't use it. And it does have some flare, but it has interesting flare. So there's that. So it's a short wide-angle zoom from 11-16, and that's sort of a big difference. You can see that when you go do that. What does it focus down to? It focused down into what was I don't know. Let's see, what does it focus down to? Oh, feet, 1 foot, 0.3 meters. Okay, that's reasonable. So, believe it or not, I bought this camera new in like 2006, and I paid the incredible price of $799 American Fed bucks just for the body, because I had the original kit lens from the original Digital Rebel, which is only 6 megapixels. So I started buying Canon glass, but Canon glass is expensive. And I read about this. Back in them days, this is a new lens that just came out in like 2006 or something. And I read reviews, and everyone said it was a great lens, and it was really reasonably priced. It was like half the price of anything name brand, but it was top rated. So I said, okay, I'm going for it. And I like this lens. I use it a lot. It's great in the cities. I highly recommend it. And you can get them used for, you know, in excellent condition, 200 bucks. And it's still in production, even though I bought this one in 2016. And I'm doing this video, did I say 2016? I meant 2006. 2006, I bought this lens. I think it's like 500 bucks or something. And now I know you buy things used. This lens is still in manufacture, although the camera is not in manufacture. This is a crop sensor, and this is a special crop sensor only lens. So they're matched in that regards. I have an 80% chance of hitting autofocus with this. It's a super wide angle, and it spoofs all autofocus, really. And there's no way you can manually focus this in the screen. It's just like a plastic molded screen to pretend it's a ground glass. And even with a magnifier, I have the magnifier be tough to focus this thing. So you have to rely on the autofocus. And you always have to like double check your picture, maybe take 2 or 3 pictures to make sure you get the correct focus. Or if you get the correct focus, you gotta snap it into manual focus so it doesn't move. So, but be that as it may. The XTi, was called the entry-level DSLR for $799 body only in 2006. That was like big bucks, big freaking bucks, right? So Canon, they make good cameras, and let's look at the menu real quick. There's position 1, quality, red eye, beep. Am I in position? Yeah. All right. So you got the AEB, flash compensation, white shift, custom white balance, color space. Picture style has a sub-menu where you have all these guys, right? So I'm usually shoot the landscape. I think it was on landscape, portrait, standard. Any one of these is good, really. Let's look at this one. Oh, how'd you do that? Jump. Oh, jump. Where's jump? Jump. So sharpness is all the way up. Contrast is down. I'm going to change that right now. I'm going to move this up a little bit to one click down, right? And I'm going to go to saturation. I got the saturation up too much. I'm going to go one click up. That's my new way. That's what I like to shoot now. Saturation up one click, contrast down one click, sharpness all the way at max. And notice the nominal is 0, and then it looks like you have 7 clicks either way, so that's 14 clicks. And they really do something, so I gotta admit that. And then we go to set, back to menu. Okay, menu again, okay. Let's see what's in here. Oh, you gotta go up, all the way up. Then you can do the tab thing. That's just for playback, auto power off, auto rotate, LCD brightness, date and time, file numbering continuous. Let's see what that does. How many, oh, that's all you got. Okay. Continuous. Oh, you gotta go up to the top, keep forgetting that. English, of course, custom functions. Custom functions has some stuff, not too much. LCD display when power on. Set button, you could change the buttons somehow. Long exposure noise reduction is either on or off. Flash sync speed, shutter speed, AF assist, exposure level increments, mirror lockup, evaluative, shutter curtain, magnified view, image playback only. That's it. So it's very, I don't want to say primitive, but it's very limited compared to like a more pro camera. But it takes good pictures anyway. They have that built in to take good pictures. I'm satisfied with the pictures this thing takes. Okay, and it comes with a big giant battery. Look at this battery. You can still get these batteries. This is a real Canon battery too. Wow. And you go. And it takes compact flash cards. I like compact flash cards because I have big fat American fingers. All right, I got rid of SD. I got used to SD, but I still like compact flash the best because that's about the smallest I like to handle things. It's been well used. I haven't banged it or smashed it, but the bottom's a little scuffed up from dragging it around some rough corners. But I don't plan on selling it anyway. So, back in 2014, I took this camera to the city with this lens, and I shot a bunch of street scenes, and we're going to look at them. And conversely, at the same time, in that month, December of 2014, I had the Canon point-and-shoot A1300, which is a very mediocre camera. All the cheap point-and-shoots that Canon makes are pretty mediocre or just barely acceptable. So you gotta stay away from them and just go with like their PowerShot G series, which is much better quality and feature-rich point-and-shoot, and I highly recommend them. But at any rate, so this is the Tokina 11-16 wide-angle zoom on the Canon Rebel XTi, and a photo shoot from 2014 December, and I'm making this video in the end of June 2023. I went to my archives and I said, why not? I mean, this is definitely vintage. This is old enough to be vintage, but it's still in production. A lens could be vintage, but still in production, I believe. Sure, why not? Without further doggy-do, which is totally different from ado, let's jump right into the picture, shall we? So I bought the Canon EOS Digital Rebel XTi, and I must have had it for like 8 years or something, because it was an expensive camera, and you can't go out buying a camera of $700 every too often, right? So I got lenses for it, and I gotta admit, it did take better pictures than the XT, and it took better pictures than the original Digital Rebel DSLR. That it did. And for a long time, I was a telephoto maven. And then I said, oh, I'm going to buy a wide-angle lens. And I got this Tokina, the 11-16 f2.8. And you know what? If you're looking at the EXIF I almost always use it at the extremes. I'm either using it at 16 or in kinky boots is at 11. I seldom use it at like 14. Oh, I've seen where I put it at 12 millimeters or 11.29 or something like that. That's because I didn't like move uh, the zoom dial all the way over. And New York City, what can I say about New York City? It's always been a sort of a scruffy city, like the Hollywood movies from the 30s and the 40s, with Humphrey Bogart and James Cagney. It was always run by gangsters, hoodlums, and thugs, and they only had tenements and immigrants. I first started going to the city in the late 70s, and it had a scruffy look to it. I think that's Mayor Lindsay was running the show back then. And, well, I started going to the city a lot in the 2000s when Rudy Giuliani and Mike Bloomberg were mayor. And I got to admit, the city felt safe. There was a gang of cops in every corner, which is better than a gang of thugs, I guess. And you felt safe walking around. Was it extreme? Well, maybe the bad guys are so extreme that the cops had to like beat their heads in a little bit or just overly arrest them. But then somebody got killed by the cops, and then it was defund the cops, and now you never see cops anywhere. And well, the thugs know this. The thugs, the criminals, the hoodlums, they all know this, and they just go out and they do their thing. So I just don't go to the city anymore. I mean, I'm glad I took all these pictures. Of course, a lot of these stores are out of business, or maybe they knocked down some buildings and put up new buildings. But the city's not for me anymore. I just don't feel safe there. Absolutely not at all. And then if you don't get accosted, by some hoodlum who steals your money, there's the moochers who are always going to ask you for money, and they play the race card. Like I'm white and they're black, and they say, give me money. And I just don't feel like dealing with that. I don't want to give someone money, walk out to, give me money, get out of here. I always had to work for my money, and I noticed that people always told me to go scratch if I needed help. America's not this great nation. Americans think they're all great, but, are they really, But I liked going to the city. The city was cool. There's all these big, gigantic buildings, and they had all these fantastic things to look at, and always live shows and exhibitions and cool stuff to do. And I wish it was a safe place. That's all I could say. This particular photo shoot was the day after Christmas. I don't know if you look at the EXIF data I pasted in. And that's a good day to go to the city, the day after Christmas. There's some hustle and bustle, but not too much. And the city took a big hit on 9/11, and it's started to recover until they had the George Floyd debacle and all that, and it's sort of going downhill again. But then I haven't been there a lot because I read in the papers all the random acts of ultraviolence that happen. And they're heinous. Something that you only would read about once every 10 years is now happening a couple times a week. And I don't know, how you would solve that, or how it got this way, or, people have no self-restraint. Maybe people are doing too many illegal drugs, or overdosing on legal drugs. So our society is pretty sick, as far as I can tell. In my EXIF data, it says it's like 3:30, but Tourneau must have accurate time. It said 1:30. I would have to go with Tourneau time. So I guess I forgot to adjust the clock in this camera. And it's a nice camera. I like this camera. I still got it, and I still use it on occasion. I slapped a cheap Tamron lens on it when I was 18 to 200 millimeter zooms. I got cheap, like $220 or something. And then it still takes good pictures. I like it. I really like it. And the Tokina is an excellent lens. I recommend you pick one up used. Don't buy new. I learned that. I have bought so much used equipment that, if I bought new, it would have cost me too much money. And I admit I spent too much money on new stuff because I had technolust. And, you know, that's a bad thing to have. Technolust is just as bad as being addicted to a fentanyl or something. I would like to go back and see if these stores are still there, some of them, or if they changed or moved or anything, but I'm afraid. I'm afraid. You know, I live so close to New York City, but I would never go. A pro tip, life hack. Don't go to New York City. Go to some other city, a smaller city. I also had the Canon PowerShot A1300, which was a pretty mediocre camera, and a lot of their inexpensive point and shoots were pretty mediocre. This one always seemed blurry, especially on the telephoto end of the zoom, and it just never seemed sharp. And the reason I bought it is because it had more megapixels than the A1100 I had, which was a really decent camera. And I was just very disappointed in this camera. And so if you want to go with a Canon point and shoot, you got to go for upscale, like the G series or something. Because this one, yeah, some of the pictures look pretty decent. That's because, well, here's a perfect example. This is a 1-to-1 crop, and it looks blurry. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I sharpened it up, I adjusted the contrast, but it still looks blurry. Now, these other pictures look acceptable because they're more like a full frame crops. That is where I just put a 16:9 mask into 4:3 format, and I shrunk it to fit the screen, and they look pretty decent. And maybe you could crop it a little bit, but you know, when you pixel peep, you could tell it was soft, and I was very upset, and I just got rid of the camera. Maybe I lost it on purpose or something, but it's gone. And in fact, all the cheap Canon point and shoots are suffered from mediocre performance. Absolutely. So previous to going to the city, which is New York City, I went to another city, which is Motown East. And Motown East is Morristown. And I still had the same lens on the camera. You know, once I get a new lens, I leave it on for a while and I experiment with it. If you look at George Washington, who's on the right, he's holding a parchment paper. That parchment paper's gone. I guess someone stole it or something. How about that? This bank is still there. I wonder if it's still the same bank. I think it might have changed names. But the eagle and the flags are still there, which is without a doubt. This guy, he's gone. It's now some other store. He was there for a while and then he disappeared. And I see that all the time in these cities. Someone opens up a store, it's there for a year, 2 years, maybe longer, and then they're gone. And then something else comes in. And that's why I always go back to the cities to see what the changes are. And there's this guy, he's gone too. But, you know, they have interesting signs. So the sign people make out good, but these businesses don't make out good. And Morristown is still under construction. And although this building is complete and that crane is gone, they're putting up other buildings somewhere else. So in the winter, when the sun is low, I like to take pictures of the tree shadows on brick faces and for the patterns. And then there's always incongruous stuff. You're walking down the street and here in the window you see these, what are they, gloves or molded hands or something just in the window? What is that? I don't know what that all about. On the way home, I took a couple long exposures on the highway. I experiment and get artistic. These came out pretty good. I like these. And here's another one. Just you know, driving down the highway. You know, some sort of abstract. And you got to do that. Of course, I wasn't driving. I was a passenger.